What is the best potting media for aroids? The answer may surprise you. Everyone's potting media is so different, and yet so many growers swear by whatever works for them. The truth is, potting media should be different for everyone because it generally has to work with how you use water. You'll hear a lot of self-proclaimed expert aroid growers telling you to use a very specific blend of materials to create the perfect aroid mix. Aroid mixes are generally described as highly aerated, chunky, which means it has a lot of big materials in it for larger air gaps, and well draining. And the reason for that stance is because most aroids in the trade are tropical epiphytes, which means that they grow on trees. So their roots require more airflow than traditional plants grown in a garden or traditional potting soil. Now these growers, no matter how accomplished they are, no matter how many followers they have, no matter how beautiful their collection may be, more often than not, they are combining this highly aerated, well-draining media with ideal growing conditions. Tropical aroids such as anthuriums, philodendrons, monsteras all originate from some of the wettest places on Earth with some of the highest amounts of rainfall. It's also very hot and humid where they come from, so essentially moisture is all around them. So an aroid with roots attached to the bark of a tree are not nearly as dry as you might expect, since they are constantly being rehydrated from the air and the raindrops that fall through the canopy. So serious growers will attempt to recreate this rainforest environment inside of a greenhouse or a grow tent. The problem is, guys, we're trying to grow these as houseplants. And a plant that is hiding inside of a grow tent in your garage, no matter how beautiful and well grown it may be, it's not a houseplant. Sorry, it's not. Houseplants are for the home. Not all plants are houseplants, but many can be adapted to grow in homes that are considerably darker, drier, and not nearly as hot as the American tropics. So I think the major obstacle to tackle here is compensation. Finding a new balance in a new environment. Just because a certain plant in the wild grows on the bark of trees in the humid and perpetually wet rainforest, that doesn't mean it can grow on a slab of bark in your living room. It'll just dry up too fast. So we need a medium that creates a microclimate around the roots of the plant. That's where sphagnum moss comes into play. It acts as kind of like a sponge and actually can absorb up to 20 times its own dry weight in water, while at the same time being much more aerated than soil. It allows epiphytic roots to get some airflow without critically drying out so quickly. The biggest con with sphagnum moss is that when it totally dries out, it can become hydrophobic, meaning that when you go to water again, it can actually block the water from reaching the roots that are tucked inside. I've also noticed that sometimes moss can feel lightly damp or moist to the touch on top, but it's actually way too dry and the roots start to get dry rot. So in that regard, it can sometimes be a little bit misleading. Now, with that in mind, it's probably beneficial to use a blend of materials in your media that will retain moisture and dry out at different rates. This way, the entire medium is less likely to collectively become hydrophobic all at once. For some growers, that may be a mix of bark, perlite, and tree fern. Other growers with different environmental conditions and watering methods may find that moss and perlite is more appropriate for them. I think the main key is this, guys. Essentially, the more aerated the medium is, the more frequently it will need to be watered. The drier the air is, the more water retention the medium will need to keep the roots hydrated. That being said, epiphytes can grow in a super dense medium like clay, so you don't want to go too extreme with the water retention. It's all about compensation, like I said, in order to provide the perfect balance. You want to find a medium that gives really good aeration while simultaneously holding onto the humidity it creates for the roots. Now, the amount of humidity that it holds will be a function of the pot, combined with how you use water. Orchid pots with slits on the side are great for aroids because when the pot is on a flat surface and is wet, the medium is still able to air out on the sides via the slits. Now personally, guys, I grow my aroids in vases without drainage holes, and I find that this method helps keep the roots more evenly hydrated and acts as a sort of humidity bowl for the roots. And so long as the roots are healthy and happy, my plants are able to grow in humidity as low as 30% in the wintertime. For more information on the vase method that I use, check out the link in the description below. Now, another really important factor when it comes to watering is heat. Now in the rainforest, where it rains daily, temperatures can reach an average of over 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And heat causes plants to lose water at a faster rate through transpiration, which is essentially a cooling process where water evaporates from the stomata, or the pores of the leaves, if you will. So when temperatures go up, so should watering. And finally guys, light. Tropical aroids have evolved in regions of the world that get roughly 12 hours of day and 12 hours of dark. And the light intensity will affect the metabolic rate of the plant and how fast it will create energy through photosynthesis. So for example guys, a philodendron growing in a bright spot, we're talking bright outdoor shade or that equivalent, is going to need more water. Now if you take that same philodendron and move it to a darker spot, its care requirements are going to change. Now you're going to need to cut back on watering and even fertilizer because the plant's metabolic rate is going to decline and be slower in that darker spot. It's not going to photosynthesize as efficiently and it's not going to grow as fast. So therefore, it's not going to need or want the amount of water and feed that it was getting in that brighter spot where it was photosynthesizing more and using energy more, creating energy through photosynthesis. So if you're at the end of this video and you're like, Jake, that information is all great, but it's a lot, just tell me what aerobic mix I should use. The truth is, guys, it's different for everyone. You have to try out different concoctions, different mixes, but that's one thing I will say, use a blend of materials. If you're nervous about just using sphagnum moss or just using leca or just using soil or whatever, which by the way, you don't want to use too much soil, especially gardening soil for your aroids, try various blends of materials until you find something that works for you in your environment and on your watering schedule. Because essentially, guys, that is what matters. Please interact with this video. Give it a like if you thought it was helpful. Give it a dislike if you thought it wasn't helpful at all. And let me know your comments and thoughts down below. All right, guys, I'll see ya in the next one. I just wanna feel the rain with you. I just wanna feel the rain with you. I just wanna feel the rain with you. I just wanna feel the rain.